gets the italics, the Canadian Journal of Nursing Research. The thing inside the container is non-italicised. And look at the capitals. What's happening with the capital letters there? Just first word, isn't it? How, capital H. So that's like a book in that sense. The capitals are like a book, but it's different from a book because a book gets italics, doesn't it? So, here's the rule for the article. The article has single quotation marks. Can you see the single quotation marks around it? Not double, single. And only one capital at the beginning and no italics. Your journal, your container, it's italics and capitals for every information word.
Nursing research, if the nursing was not capital in N, we could bring it as the same as was.
We could what?
We could bring it, if it was not N, capital N, we should bring it without capital N. If the title of the journal was...
No, the title of the journal will have capitals. I mean, that's what a journal
Always.
does. That's the point. Journals will have capitals for all information words. Yeah. What's that? Don't use journals. Now, look, this applies. That's the most common thing. However, you could get other containers with things inside them. You could have a chapter in a book, right? Now, what I mean by that is, if we think of an edited book, so it's not a book written by one person, there's lots of different chapters and they're all by different people, and an editor is the person who's collected all the chapters and thinks these are the best ones, and goes through and checks languages and consults and you know. They're the collector. But each one would have a different author and a different title. So can you see how it's like articles in a journal, isn't it? It's the same sort of idea. Same rules will apply. The container, the edited book, will have italics. It will have, even though it's a book, it's in a different situation now. It's going to have capitalised first letters, and your article, your chapter, is going to have your single quotation marks and won't be italicised.
Again, it's also capital about chapter.
Your chapter will only have a capital at the beginning. It will be non-italics. It will have single quotation marks. Just like your article. It'll just follow the same pattern as article in the journal. If all this is getting a bit complicated, look, the last 3/4 of this whole thing is like, okay, you've got an online journal, you've got a book, you've got a hard copy journal, you've got a CD-ROM, a conference paper. There are all sorts of different examples, and it gives you the formula of what you have to do and an example. We'll get to some of those. We're not going to go through them all, but my point is, you've got a pretty clear guide here, and all you do is think, okay, what have I got here? All right, I've got a chapter in a book, so you look it up, chapter in a book, and then you just use the example given, and you just replace your information in there, and you just make sure you keep the same form. All right, but we have to talk about the principles first, so that you do it with some understanding, and you get more accuracy. All right, next page. Here's an example of an essay. We won't read the essay, I don't think we need to. We'll just look at the comments on the side. Now we've got some basics in place. All right, we see extract there. Always provide, here's a quote there. Look at the quote. Why is it moved in like that?
More than 30.
Exactly. It's more than 30 words, and remember that rule? It's more than 30, we have to indent it. It is slightly reduced in font size, 1 or 2, usually 2 steps down. Yeah, and no quotation marks. You see? Look, and at the beginning you use a colon, suggests colon, 2 dots. Miss a line, indent, put your quote. Comments. Always provide author year and page number when quoting. There's the page number. Stam, 2005A, page 4. The A refers to, let's turn over the page and go and look at Stam. Where would we find it? At the beginning of the reference list or near the end? Stam. Probably towards the end, wouldn't we? Because it's S. Can you see Stam? R. Now can you see 2005A? And then blah blah blah, introduction. Alright, jump down 1 entry. Can you see 2005B? Now there's a dash there. Why the dash? Same author, right. Now, Stam was very busy that year. She wrote 2 articles. She must have really wanted to get her PhD.
Which page are we in?
We're over the page on the references.
6.
Just turn over that page, Marley. Yep. 6. We're looking at the reference list. We're just chasing Stam's in-text reference over into the reference list. I just want to explain the A thing. Okay, she wrote 2 articles, and in fact the second one was a book. The first one's a chapter in the book. Alright, can you see how it's a chapter in the book? It says, in R. Stam and A. Ringo eds, editors. And then the title of the book, Literature and Film Guide, blah blah. So there's a chapter in a book, and the second one is a book itself. Now both those things were published in that year. So you've got to give some indication with an A and a B which one is which. If you put Stam 2005 obviously in 2 places in your essay and then you switch over, you're going to get confused, don't you? So you put 1A and 1B. Which one gets the A and which one gets the B? Well, it's not the one that she wrote in January doesn't get an A, and the one she wrote in October got a B. You can't necessarily tell that. The way it works is, look at the titles. Introduction, first word. Second word, second entry, literature. It's alphabetical order of the first word in the title. That's what gets A and what gets B. Sometimes that happens. Yeah. Okay, going back to second comment. Quotes longer than 30 words, we've dealt with that. There is a little bit, a further point there. Can you see it says ellipsis? We know what ellipsis is, something being missed out. ... 3 dots, not 2, not 4, 3. Sometimes you want to quote something, and there might be a bit you don't really need. Like a non-defining clause or something, you just don't need it. Take it out. You must put your dots though to indicate to the reader that there's something being taken out. Ellipsis. Okay, alright. The next point is the Stam A and B. We've talked about that. Let's have a look at the next one, which is important. Several sources are cited at once. Let's look at the sentence. However, fidelity, like faithfulness, is not an appropriate, I'm reading from the essay now, is not an appropriate measure for evaluating a film's adaptation success, as numerous scholars concur. Concur means agree. Which scholars agree? Well, Desmond and Hawkes 2006, Leach 2008, McFarlane 1996, Miller and Stam 2004. Look how many references for 1 point, right? That's 1 point, and this person has backed it up with not just 1 reference, but 4. Okay, now I've said before, here's an example. yesterday we were talking about analogies. I use the analogy a lot that an essay is a bit like a court case in court, an argument. You're presenting an argument. Is it better to have lots of evidence? Of course, in court it's good, isn't it? And in this case, okay, one person saw the murderer leaving the house at 2 o'clock. 4 people saw the murderer leaving the house at 2 o'clock. Which is stronger? 4. It's still the same point, isn't it? But you've got 4 witnesses. This is like having 4 witnesses. So think about your own research. If you've read a few things and they're kind of repeated, not necessarily a waste. You can put both those, the authors, in your piece. It makes it much stronger. Now, if you can't do that, that's fine. But, you know, where you can, do it. The point is, there is no such thing as too many references. Is there such a thing as too many witnesses in a court case? I don't think so. You know, it either helps convict somebody or get them off to a greater level of certainty. Same with essays. No such thing as too many references.
But when I read some articles, one gave like 500% and about the same situation, the other one gives 600.
Ah, yeah, different figures.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it's same situation and same thing.
Yeah.
So is that still okay if I put both?
Yeah, but yeah, you could either say they both agree something is increasing and one's got 500 and one's got 600, you can put it like that, or you could say Donaldson believes the economy has expanded by 500% and Williamson believes it's expanded by 600.
Or
So,
500 to 600% according to these.
and according to various scholars,
Yeah.
Donaldson, Williamson, yeah. I mean, there are different ways of dealing with it, but yeah, you could. Okay, so we're okay on that point. It's a fairly important one, but you know, back up your material with as many references as you can. Of course, there's a problem with not enough, isn't there? And this is what we've been dealing with in critical thinking in essays: unsubstantiated claim, no referencing at all. That's a real problem. Okay, quotes shorter than